Today we're going to be looking at the number 1 ranked FM26 tactic on FM Arena. This tactic is called the Diabolic version 2.0. It's a very aggressive tactic and it also adopts the strikerless system that is very overpowered in Football Manager 2026. For the sake of you guys playing on console, we're going to go through all the player instructions, all the team instructions, just to show you and break down the entire tactic to show you how everything actually works. So starting with the player roles, the goalkeeper first. The goalkeeper is the ball-playing goalkeeper, and if you look at his player instructions, he has been only asked to take more risk, and that is the default instruction for the ball-playing goalkeeper. His out of possession role is a sweeper keeper, and then no internal instructions for him. In the back three, you have two overlapping centre backs on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side, and then one ball-playing centre back in the middle. For the overlapping centre back on the right-hand side, he has stay wider instructions selected for him. A default instruction for the overlapping centre back is to make forward runs. Those are the only two instructions, but for out of possession, you're only going to add the instruction of tackle harder. This is the same instructions for the overlapping centre back on the left hand side. Just add the stay wider instructions, and out of possession, you go ahead and add the tackle harder instruction. However, for the ball playing centre back in the middle, you don't need to add any instructions except out of possession. You go ahead and add the tackle harder instruction for him. Here we have two wing backs. On the left hand side, the wing back only has the stay wider instruction. He's also going to make forward runs, but you can go ahead and add the shoot less often instruction for him. You also want the wing back to cross on the byline. Then out of possession, you're going to go ahead and add the tackle harder instruction. For the wing back on the right hand side is the same instructions as well. Stay wider, cross the ball from the byline, shoot less often, and then out of possession, you're going to add the tackle harder instruction. Now it's important to note that the wing backs are playing as wing backs only in possession. When they're out of possession, they're going to be playing as normal fullbacks. You're also going to move their position to slightly deeper roles, so they're very close to the centre backs. This is very important when we look at the team instructions, so pay attention. So in central midfield, we have a channel midfielder. The default instruction for him is going to be to move into channels, but in case you don't see this, go ahead and add it. You're also going to add the shoot less instruction, and then out of possession, of course, you're going to go ahead and add the tackle harder instruction. But it's important to note that the channel midfielder is playing as a defensive midfielder out of possession, so you're going to drag him into the DM position and then go ahead and add that tackle harder instruction for him. It's the same for the central midfielder on the left hand side. He's going to be an attacking midfielder. However, out of possession, he's going to be a defensive midfielder playing in defensive midfield. But in possession, you want to ask him to move into channels and of course shoot less often. And then like I mentioned, out of possession, drag him to the DM position and then ask him to tackle harder. The front three is where it really gets interesting because I'm not seeing any wingers. As much as I've heard enough about wingers and wide forwards, in this tactic, we have an inverted winger on the left hand side and an inside forward on the right hand side. So for the inside winger or inverted winger, like we like to call them, you're going to ask them to stay a bit wider, even though they're also going to cut inside with the ball. You also want to ask them to make forward runs and cross the ball from the byline as well. Out of possession, however, they're going to be acting like normal wingers and they're also going to tackle harder. But the inside forward on the right hand side is pretty similar for him. He's also going to stay a bit wider and cut inside with the ball. But making forward runs is a default instruction for the inside forward. So you're also going to take more risk, but for shooting, you want to leave his shooting on standard. The crossing is going to be from the byline, and then out of possession, he's also going to get stuck in. None of these players are actually marking a specific centre back or wing back, so that's quite good. Before, we used to need to mark a target, but that's not necessary this year. Now, for the main goal threat in the tactic, we have a shadow striker or a second striker in the number 10 position. He is going to move into channels, and making forward runs is the default instruction for him. No other instruction is going to be selected, but then out of possession, you're going to ask him to play as an attacking midfielder, and you're going to ask him to tackle harder. Those are all the player roles for the Diabolic version 2.0. Let's look at the team instructions. Now, team instructions wise is split into in possession and out of possession. We'll start off with the out of possession instructions. First of all, looking at the way it's set up in the overview, you're going to play with a more direct passing and much higher tempo. You also need to play much narrower and push for counter-attacks as often as possible. Go ahead and disable time wasting and leave your creative freedom unbalanced. In case you have set pieces, you can go ahead and turn on play for set pieces, but I do recommend leaving it as default if you do not have any set piece routine set up. But individually in the final phases of play, let's look at the final third. Final third, you want to encourage your team to dribble a bit more and walk the ball into the box. You're also going to try to discourage long shots as often as you can, and then also ask the team to play low crosses. In midfield progression, you want to ask your team to play the ball down both flanks. You also want to encourage dribbling a lot. We've seen that already in the final third. But for passing reception, you're going to look to pass into space. During the build-up phase, you want your team to play through the press. You also want to tell your goalkeeper to play the ball short. You can leave the distribution speed unbalanced, but ask the goalkeeper to distribute the ball to the centre backs. You have 3 centre backs, so they can't really lose with that. Out of possession, however, this is where those fullbacks dropping beside the centre backs are really important. You can see that there is a high press, but there's also a much lower defensive line. This scenario is the first time I've actually seen it. I couldn't believe it actually works. But please watch the matches and see. If you do not enjoy it, go ahead and push it back to standard. Your defensive line behavior is going to be pretty balanced, but your trigger press, you're going to push it all the way up to much more often trigger press. Defensive transition, you're going to encourage counter pressing and also encourage your team to get very rough with the tackles. Go ahead and get stuck in. Now for the different phases of play, when you're in a low block, you want to invite crosses as well. And when you're in the mid block phase, you also want to leave the pressing trap unbalanced. During the high press, you also want to prevent the short goalkeeper distribution. That is all the player instructions and team instructions you need to recreate the Diabolic version 2.0 on Football Manager 2026. For more top-ranked Football Manager tactics like this, go ahead and hit subscribe so we can get those notifications when those videos do come out. I will go out and share more tactics that I find. See you in the next video.